Republicans find themselves answering questions about one man and one man only, Donald Trump. The Sunday shows were filled with questions about two eye-catching comments Trump made last night. In one, Trump said migrants are not people. And in the other, he painted a dark future for the country if he does not win.
We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars if I get elected. Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country.
Here to talk about that and much more, Democratic strategist Maria Cardona and Republican strategist Alice Stewart, both CNN political commentators and co-hosts of the podcast Hot Mics from Left to Right. Thank you for being with us. All right, Alice, I want to start with you. The Trump campaign says the bloodbath comment was just about the auto industry. Your reaction?
I believe it. Look, you have to look at, there are several definitions of bloodbath, but one of the definitions of the word bloodbath is a period of disastrous loss or reversal. That phrase is used all the time. We're talking about the economy or the stock market. That's the context I truly believe he was using in this case. He's talking in Detroit, he's talking about the auto industry, and he was making the case, and of course, I'm not surprised Democrats took it out of context. He's making the case of about China, and if they're going to build huge manufacturing facilities in Mexico and think they're going to sell these cars up in America, if he's president, there will be a 100% tariff, and they are not going to have the economic result that they're currently getting with the Biden administration. And also, the campaign made the point quite accurately that Joe Biden's electric vehicle mandates are killing the American manufacturing industry. And they're making the case that under the Biden administration, it's not great news for the auto manufacturing industry, and that's an accurate statement.
Maria.
Oh, bless your heart, Alice. Look, of course I don't buy it. And what Alice is saying reflects every single kind of pretzel that Republicans are bending themselves into trying to dismiss it, spin it, or try to embrace it. But the fact of the matter is, Paula, Donald Trump has a history of this dark, violent, dangerous rhetoric. And we already saw the result of what happens when he uses that rhetoric. Because even though every single Republican that is asked is going to try to spin it and pretend that it really had nothing to do with a real bloodbath, his cult MAGA supporters and followers totally know exactly what he was telling them. They demonstrated that on January 6th, and the only thing that Trump said is, come to the Capitol, it's going to be wild, we have to take back our country. Imagine what will happen when he loses after Trump says things like, it's going to be a bloodbath if I lose. That is dangerous, it's irresponsible, and he should not get away with it. And certainly Republicans should not be trying to dismiss it.
But even answering questions like this cannot be helpful for Republicans in terms of their own election prospects.
No, and this is, many in the liberal media would rather focus on this than talk about how poorly the economy is and how bad things are at the border and how public safety is not good in many cities across the country. And, you know, my dear friend Maria, I just do have to push back on the fact that what is dangerous is when Democrats take things out of context. He was talking about the auto industry. He wasn't talking about January 6th. And believe me, I have been.
Our country.
You and I have
we heard it.
We have had many conversations. I disagree with everything he had to do with January 6th and questioning the integrity of our election. But in this context, that's not what he was talking about.
But Alice, do you really think that his followers, let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, what you are saying is what he meant. You know his followers are not going to take it that way. He, as a prospective president, should understand that. And this is where the massive failure is for him and for Republican followers and elected officials who understand just how dangerous that is.
Let's bring in our panel. David Frum, staff writer for The Atlantic, CNN contributor Lulu Garcia-Navarro, and Jason Osborne, former senior communications strategist for the 2016 Ben Carson campaign. Thank you all for being here this morning. David, I'm going to kind of let you go first here. The weekend sort of back and forth around this really seemed to center on, you know, a lot of the president's defenders saying, look, he was being very specific. It was about the auto industry. This is all being mischaracterized. I want to just play the whole clip just so that, you know, no one can accuse us of not showing the entirety of what the president said about this. It's a little bit of a longer version than what we just showed. Let's watch it, and then I'd like your reaction. Watch.
if you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars.
What's he doing here?
Well, Trump's brain is a little bit like pudding. Things slop around and don't cohere into any precise shape. But I looked it up. In the past 12 months, past year, former President Trump has threatened violence in one form or another at least 5 times that I can count. On his Truth Social, with images of him putting a baseball bat at the head of the New York DA. He's threatened death and destruction if he's not elected. So if this had come out of the blue, you might say, okay, the pudding brain has spat out something formless in the context of saying we're going to blow up the U.S.-Mexico Free Trade Agreement and massively raise the price of cars for American consumers. He said something else. But 5 times. This would be the 6th incident of a call for violence in the past year. So I think it's at that point you get to say, if you're predicting death and destruction if you lose, if you're saying there's going to be bedlam if you lose, if you invite your supporters to go after the New York Attorney General, when you then say, and there will be a bloodbath if I lose, you lose the benefit of the doubt because there's a pattern here that goes back a year.
I think one of the things that to me is really interesting about this entire speech was that he started it by lauding the January 6th.
And let's show that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Let's play that, and then we're going to pick up where Lulu left off.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the horribly and unfairly treated January 6th hostages.
You see the spirit from the hostages, and that's what they are, as hostages. They've been treated terribly. Unbelievable patriots, and they were unbelievable patriots and are.
Criminals who attack police officers on their way into the Capitol. Continue.
Precisely. And so this was a violent insurrection. And so what he's doing there is setting the stage. He's starting his campaign rally there by saying, hey, these people didn't actually do what they did. They were patriots. They are, politically persecuted. And it sets the stage for this normalization of violence. And so when he uses words like bloodbath, talking about the car industry, already the people who are listening to him are primed to understand that he's really talking about something else.
Well, and this is kind of part of it, too. I mean, in the lead up to January 6th, there's plenty of clues, right, along the way that this is what he was asking people to do because there was an audience that was hearing him in a certain way. Jump in, offer your thoughts here if you think these folks are on the wrong track, but I'm interested in that piece of it as well.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and defend, like some of the other Republicans that have been on here defend. I know what he was referring to. I would say that, this isn't unusual for Trump to kind of go off cuff. The excuse that the teleprompter was moving around and shaking around. I mean, what Trump does at these things is he gauges the audience reaction, and I think if he's focusing on certain parts of the audience and he's starting to lose them, they're not understanding what he's saying, they're waiting for that red meat thing, he throws something out there. It's careless and it's reckless, right? But I don't necessarily feel that, there's a half-truth to everything that he says, enough so that it reinvigorates what he's thinking is the base, right? And you're hoping that at some point he switches to a general election strategy, but in the back of his mind, he feels like these rallies are kind of boring if he focuses on policy discussions, et cetera. So the January 6th thing, I have honestly no idea what that's about. I can't sit here and say that that's a great thing to start talking about. He's already got those folks in his camp. So move on and try and add voters that you lost in 2020 and then the millions of new voters that he needs to get in order to defeat Biden.